Welcome, everybody. Happy Friday. We are the Real Estate Lab, coming at you every Friday from 2:30 to 3, offering up helpful tips for buyers, sellers, investors in the Austin area. We're a couple of realtors, and we have a special guest today. So we will go around and introduce ourselves. I, of course, am Liberty Walker with Realty Austin, local realtor on a mission. And over here to my right is the infamous. That's you, Ian.
Okay, so I can't see my own image because I'm at this coffee shop. And can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay. I'll just go. So I'm Ian. I go by ianofAustin everywhere on the internet. I am at Mojo Coffee Shop in Liberty Hill, Texas. I'm out kind of in hill country a little bit, and I just I want to say hi to everybody and thank you, Charlene, for joining us. But let's go down to JJ real quick.
What's up, everybody? JJ Tolentino with the Next Level Property Group at Keller Williams. Excited to talk about greenery and curb appeal, because that's how your price goes up. And even as a new single family homeowner myself, excited to hear about what you have to talk about today. So let me introduce Charlene, or have Charlene introduce herself.
We have with us special guest, former agricultural scientist and local native plant lover, Charlene Ferris. Thank you, Charlene, for being here. Today's episode is curb appeal.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
We are going to offer up some helpful tips for homeowners, maybe sellers who are trying to make the most of their beautifying their space. So that makes such a big difference. And we already have a comment. Hello, Iano. Nice to see you. Nancy. Hello, Nancy, and thank you for joining us. So today we're talking about plants, essentially, and which ones can maybe we plant that makes our home look better. So does anyone have any special experience working with the seller, giving them special advice on what they can plant in their front yard to help beautify their home?
I'm gonna go ahead. Sorry.
No, go, Ian, go.
Oh, I was gonna say, I'm gonna start off and say, I often get that question with both buyers or sellers. Sellers want to know what they can do to enhance their curb appeal, but buyers want to know, depending on the buyer and the level of experience they've had, what kind of trees are in the yard. They want to know how much maintenance and upkeep it's going to take. And then there are a lot more things that we'll talk about throughout the course of this. So those are both really common questions I get whenever I'm talking with both buyers and or sellers.
I have a great comment for that. If you want to figure out the types of trees for your potential buyer, there are many different apps that you can download through Android and iOS, where all you have to do is take a picture of the leaf and it will bring up the type of tree it is.
That's so cool.
So,
interesting.
So there's apps. There's also, I did want to mention that Kuper Sotheby Wildflower Center has a really great native database where, maybe if you don't know exactly what it is, maybe you can filter through a lot of their images to quite figure out what it is. Another great resource to understanding and identifying what is in your yard, you can always reach out to your extension agent, and they are based in the counties. So you would just need to search through Google who your county extension agent is.
That's so
Now,
interesting.
when you say extension agent, what is that again? What is an extension agent?
An county extension agent is employed by our land grant university, which is Texas A&M University. It is a program where we have put, specialists, horticulture specialists, entomologists in the specific counties to help the community in those counties of what are the different effects going on. As you know, during our snowpocalypse, there's been some numbers put out about how much plants survived. And so these master gardeners and these extension agents will have that background knowledge of, like, right now, I think I recently heard that 30% of the palm trees died in the Austin area. So, so those resources are always good to figuring out what's in your yard, and then once you figure it out, you can find out further information of how they're upkept.
And I want to bring up something too that I just thought about. When I'm going on a home tour with a client and we're approaching the house and maybe there are a ton of trees and they're like, oh, well, we can take out these trees and put a pool in. Well, not every county has different restrictions. Every community has different restrictions on what trees you can actually remove. So maybe you won't be able to remove those trees. It depends on the age and the breed and all of this.
I think the circumference size, especially with the live oaks and escarpment oaks, those are endemic species to Texas. And so sometimes they, like to keep those older trees intact. Of course, if you wanted to remove one of those types of trees, if allowed, it might, this goes into, could it mess up the foundation? Is it too close to the house? Would affect the roof? But yeah,
that's a really good point that you brought up, because different trees have different root spans. And so if you have a beautiful oak that is planted, 2 feet away from your door, and it may look like a baby now, it may be a tree that a builder put in. How big is that thing going to get? How wide are those roots going to go? And what is it going to do to your foundation?
And that would be a good question for an extension agent and possibly even an arborist.
And how do we find the extension agent? We contact the city?
So actually you can Google and all you need to put is, my local county extension agent. I do have some links that I could provide that maybe y'all can put in the video in the comment section.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
JJ, and let's be real too. When we're out there with the trees and the properties, it's possible that those roots are like, just because it's in a master plan community doesn't necessarily mean every tree is safely planted, right? It's a possibility and worth looking into.
Well, don't you have a story, JJ, about your trees?
Well, I just moved into the suburbs and I've been living in a high rise for the past 12, 13 years, but I was just taking pictures of it and people were making comments saying that, the 2 trees are too close together. And, even when me and my wife were shopping, my mother-in-law would say that tree's too close to the house. And I wasn't too sure how much of it was hearsay, or I was like, why'd that tree end up close to the house? Like, what's going on? So yeah, I would probably reach out to that extension agent and see, right? That's where it'd be fitting.
It's a great resource.
Oh, yeah.
Well, while we're on the topic of trees, everybody loves a tree, a snapshot in time. You see a big, beautiful tree. It looks great. But what is that tree going to do throughout the year? Some trees, Charlene, can you tell us a little bit about the life cycle of some different trees that might be a nuisance to a homeowner?
Absolutely. So I wanted to discuss with you guys deciduous trees. Deciduous trees are your willows, your birch, maple, elm, pecan, and redbud. They lose their leaves during the winter months to conserve energy to create their, blooms in the spring.
And
So
that's the definition of deciduous. They do
yes,
that. Okay.
yes, they lose their leaves in the winter, and
I just learned that today, by the way, in the pre-show.
yeah. So if you're somebody who doesn't like to rake, maybe look into trees that are considered evergreens, which do not lose their leaves. Those types of trees would be your pines, your spruce, yes, and lovely cedar.
So when you're landscaping around your pool this summer, getting ready for hitting the market, your pool hitting the
Don't
market,
do an oak.
Don't do an oak. Okay, evergreen.
Or like a sago palm, something that's not going to have leaf litter, or catkin litter. So the catkin, that's another botanical term, is when the oak trees, they create those little spikes, and those things fall to the ground, and then we have all that pollen all over our cars. So yeah, anything that's just, all the things that are going to fall down that you don't want in your pool or have to rake up, those are definitely things to consider. I know that y'all were talking about curb appeal, and some things that I know to me is very curb appealing, specifically in the fall. Mums are really, mums are in season. Mums are considered annuals, and those, they bloom and then they die, but they're really good showy flowers that you could put in like wicker baskets out on the front porch. So that was something I wanted to bring up to y'all, that although annuals might not be good to plant when showing, they might be good as sort of a decorative placeholder.
Well, if you're thinking about maybe selling your home in the fall, plant those bulbs, or I guess, do your research and see what you can do now so that they might be blooming in time for spring. So
Absolutely.
We did get a comment popped in. Mark, he wants to know, on new builds, how close is it safe to add trees to a house without having it intrude on your foundation or utility in 10 years? Now, Mark, that might be kind of a double-edged sword question there, because it depends on the type of tree, of course. But I always say, when I'm looking in a home tour, I want those trees to at least be 15 to 20 feet away from the foundation, away from the house. And for two reasons too. You don't want the roots going under the home affecting the foundation, and you do not want those branches touching the top of your roof, upsetting your roof, and also creating a highway potentially for critters to get on top of your roof and do some damage there, nibbling on the roof. Ian, do you have any stories about that? You're muted, Ian. You're muted.
Oh my gosh, here we go. Okay, I'll keep it simple. I'll keep it short. One thing that I heard as kind of a general rule of thumb, and please, Charlene, correct me if I'm incorrect, what it looks like on top of the tree, the root system on top of the tree, what you see for the branches on top of the tree is similar to what's going on underground as far as the width and the depth of the tree. Can you help me elaborate on that?
I have not heard that before, because trees can have very different growth patterns, dichotomous. I mean, we could go into all the botanical terms. So I have not heard that, but I could be wrong.
There's always somewhere to learn. I have heard that, but I think it depends on the tree.
Yeah, I bet it's a little bit, that's too broad of a stroke. Blanket statement, maybe. I don't know.
How deep do those roots go?
But yeah, as far as critters, I've seen where new construction is built and it kind of pushes critters into the next phase of the neighborhood, or the last phase that was created in the neighborhood. And you'll get all sorts of things in your attic if you have your trees, your limbs touching. In fact, I just had this today. Oh my gosh. So an appraiser came back saying that the bushes were too close to the house. Something about termites. We had a wood destroying insect inspection report, but the appraiser wanted to see that the bushes We're not touching the house just to prevent termite damage. I was like, what? What are you talking about? So anyway, we have to go get new angles of the pictures to submit to the appraiser. That was just not even an hour ago.
That's amazing.
Interesting because the bush is not what's attracting the termite. It's the wood.
It's the wood.
I'm trying not to tell the appraiser how to do his
Like,
job.
what kind of appraiser is this?
That brings me to an interesting segue. When you're redoing your curb appeal and beautifying your space, you know, I've seen a lot of people doing some xeriscaping, where they're taking their grass away and they're planting cactus and all sorts of things like that. Now, Charlene, do you know where we can get some of these cactus? Should we go to Home Depot? I mean, where would you send us to go get some of these plants?
So are you interested in xeriscapes or natives?
I think natives. I mean, let's stick with what's naturally going to do well here, I think.
Yeah, that's really important. If that, if there's issues with the homeowners associations about different kinds of sprinklers or irrigation systems, maybe you might want to go with some plants that are native to the city and to your zone, so that way you don't have to water as much as ornamentals would need. So for me, I personally like to shop local. So for me, I really enjoy the Natural Gardener. They specifically list on their plants, on the containers, what is native and what is not. So I really find their selection very great. I also, I do shop at the Great Outdoors quite a bit. They also have a native area section. And really, Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center, they propagate natives and they have 2 plant sales a year. And I always frequent those plant sales.
So just go to their website and download their calendar and put a sticky note on that day so you can go and get yourself some native plants.
Also, I would say if you're more of a succulent person, Eastside Succulents is great.
All right.
So the yard design is a little new to me. Plus, I've never messed with plants too much. Like, if I needed help for like design purposes, who would I go to for that?
So I've heard that actually online that there is landscaping CAD programs that anybody can use. And also, if you wanted to contract, there's definitely a lot of different type of landscapers that offer more of a design aesthetic. So
yeah, but how do you know they're good? That's always the question, right?
Yeah.
Well, ask your realtor. Maybe they have some references for you. I know a couple of gardeners. Mm-hmm.
I also frequent, Instagram. Instagram has really great resources for local plant sales. Also, there's one in particular girl, La Otra Flora, which is that means the other flower. She actually gives consultations to folks who want to create their either front yard or backyard into a floral garden.
Ooh,
that's so awesome. That sounds so
really
beautiful.
cool.
I need that.
Hey, Charlene, or anybody actually, have any of you seen where they paint your grass for listings?
No.
Yeah. My buddy actually had a company like that, and supposedly the paint would fertilize a little bit. Supposedly,
yeah, but it doesn't last that long. It's just for listings. It's because people that are coming from California expect to see green grass. People that are
I think Ian's cutting in and out a little bit.
from Ohio,
you could paint it, and people from Cali
green grass. That's just how it is.
Oh,
that's where I first saw the painting of grass was in California.
That is such a wonderful point, because right now in this market, I know a handful of buyers that have purchased their home sight unseen. And they are taking liberties embellishing these yards. Guys, you've got to get your realtor out there to feel around, because it is going to be a surprise once you come and find out that those wood chip backyards that you thought were lush green grass is actually painted.
Don't think I didn't catch that pun. They're taking their liberties. That's good.
Let's not get into the weeds, Ian. Oh my gosh.
With what are, because some of these terms are a little over my head. Like I heard annuals and or ornamentals. Like what's some good terminology to start understanding what the heck is good for design or good curb appeal?
Yeah, I mean, just so you know, like I said before, annuals, they're gonna bloom once and they're gonna die. And so that means that you'll have to keep rebuying them. Perennials, they will rebloom for many years. So perennials, cost wise, that's a better bang for your buck.
I'm assuming the annuals are so good, people still go for them just to.
Oh yes, because they're very showy. It's what's in season.
Yeah,
it's very beautiful. And then you had mentioned ornamentals. How I would classify ornamentals is something that is not native to Texas, but it may, due to where it's originally from, may fit within our zone. So, we are kind of tropical. So maybe there's some other things from Florida or in a more tropical environment that does really well here.
So I have a crazy question. I don't know if it's crazy. I don't know why I use that word a lot. I have a question. Okay, so I'm thinking of attraction for home buyers, right? And I think of a lot of things like I just bought a hummingbird feeder,
we
just got a new types of plants. Ian. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll type it.
Sorry, Ian. We'll have to see what he was saying when he types it out. But what I was thinking too, like JJ, you are a listing agent and you have these listing consultations. What are some things that you tell your sellers that they could do to quickly beautify their front yard? Maybe paint your door a bright color. Maybe put in some lighting on the walkway.
Yeah, I am not that type of like design listing agent. I don't naturally, if I see something I know and it's cool, I know it's cool, but putting it together, I do have to still build. We actually have a little bit of a meeting where it's like, let's find a landscaper to chat with. So I'm glad Charlene's here because you're adding to these resources. Or I have a go-to interior designer. So yeah, I mean, I'm more of like, get the grass good, do the mulch. Let's keep it going.
Well, there's some things, as primarily a buyer's agent, there are some things that my clients just kind of fixate on that, I'll share those secrets. And it's like put on some new numbers on your mailbox.
Yes.
They'll just kind of focus in on that. And there's just some little tips and tricks that you can do to really brighten up that facade, power wash. Yeah.
And especially being at the doorstep, because you got to think about this realtor is opening the key box and then the buyer's just kind of standing around looking at the porch, looking at the landscaping in the front yard. So those are good places to keep clean and nice.
I would think that something that could make a yard look really sharp is really having the sidewalks edged, sharp, very clean. And like I had said before, like ornamentals or annuals that are like in baskets out in the front. So that way they have the opportunity to really modify and customize their front yard when they're ready.
Ooh, this is a real estate quiz for either Ian or JJ. Do you guys remember from real estate school that about gardens? Can they dig up those plants and take it with you when you leave your home and you sell it, or do you have to leave them behind?
I think you have to put it in as an exclusion. and their
Yes.
attached property.
If the sellers want to keep those plants, if they have like a fig tree that they've grown up with as a child and they want to take it, they'll need to put it in exclusions. But the sellers have the right to come back and harvest 1 year, up to 1 year after. So if there's a tomato crop or grapes for wine, the sellers have access to 1 year after that to come harvest that stuff.
You're over here talking about farm and ranch type questions, and that answers Sanjeev's question here. He says, do you recommend planting fruit trees?
Ooh, I mean, I highly recommend planting fruit trees. My mother has tons of fruit trees. Just be aware that they do attract pollinators. So if you have small children around and maybe it's a citrus tree, bees do go to it. So be mindful of that. And be mindful of the fruit drop. If you don't want critters in your yard, or flies or anything like that, just make sure you harvest. But definitely look at the zoning to make sure that you are not planting a variety that is not suited for this environment because it's very hot.
So can I try asking my question again? Are we good? Is this better?
Flashback had a funny comment. Not funny, it's actually kind of sad.
Oh my gosh. JJ, will you read it?
Flashback says, OMG, I had a renter in one of our houses. They took everything, even the bushes.
Oh my gosh.
Terrible.
I'm so sorry about
Terrible.
that, Nancy. That does sound terrible. Maybe if you're doing a rental property, just put the bare bones in there,
Boxwood.
Yeah. Boxwood.
That is used as a shrubbery. And you can also shape it to whatever shape you want. I've always wanted to see a neighborhood that had very coiffed and sculptured plant hedges, but I've yet to come across that yet.
You have to go find Edward Scissorhands' neighborhood.
Exactly.
So if there are a lot of people here that have puppies, dogs. I'm a new puppy owner, so I have to be careful with this stuff. What types of plants can people not plant? And the reason why I'm bringing it up is if somebody's a buyer of a house and they see these types of plants there, they might worry for their puppy or their kitten or something like that.
Off the top of my head, I do know that sago palms can be dangerous to puppies if they eat enough of it.
See, so that's one of those things where if they were a dog owner and they knew that and they were going to look at this house, you might be like, well, why is my house not getting the asking price? Well, if you have all these dog owners, you have a dog house that you don't know you have toxic plants. It's one of those psychological things that we have to think deeper about when we're listing our homes.
That's a really good point. Yes. And I know that the berries are not good for dogs to eat. And so maybe when you're moving into a place, you should get somebody out there to just kind of do an evaluation for you so that you're not, especially people from out of the state of Texas that move here. Whenever I'm on a showing appointment with somebody that might be from California, I'm like, that's poison ivy. Don't touch it. So I just try to point out those things. But well, you guys, we have about a minute left. We can just go around and just say our goodbyes and any last info you want to shout out. We'll start with you, JJ.
Yeah, Charlene, thanks for the resources. This is one of those videos where I'm going to have to rewind it or check out the links and see, like Ladybird and the extension and all that. I'm going to look in all that stuff, see what we could do about our space out here.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. I know for me, I really enjoy natives because it brings in those pollinators. And I think that ties into the question, Ian, that you had about, if somebody does want to increase pollinators into their yard, what types of plants should they use? The good thing about those nurseries that I talked about, not only do their spaces show that it's native, it does tell you which pollinators are most attracted to those types of plants.
Thank you, Charlene. I'm so excited to get out there and visit those nurseries and scoop up some of those native plants.
Sage, standing cypress.
Boom.
Yes. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you next Friday on the Real Estate Lab.
Thanks for tuning in,
Thanks,
y'all.
everyone. Thanks, Charlene. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Charlene.
That was fun.